Hello, we are going to be covering the Kenyan banking system mistrust and the rise of M-Pesa to help fill that socioeconomic void today. This is GTD 503, Rich Mumley, here at ASU. So through this slide, we've got just four slides. We'll cover the pre-development of the solution and kind of state the problem and what we're trying to fix here, and then the takeoff of the solution and how collaborative problem solving was used to fill that gap, and then the acceleration of the platform, the technology itself, M-Pesa, and what would follow called M-Payer, and then the stabilization of that platform, and then take a look at the stakeholders we would be examining, as well as the sorts of tensions that still exist today. So pre-development, we've got the Kenyan mistrust of the traditional banking system with an origin state of after decades of financial scandals and banking system failures. Kenyans grew to mistrust traditional banking and preferred to deal in cash. And obviously, there are security issues there. And so Africans with no credit cards or bank accounts needed a way to trade for services that was more safe. And they were sending cash transactions through parcels on the bus network, and needless to say, those oftentimes did not make it there. So what do we do? So a collaborative solution called M-Pesa was invented by a businessman in his early 20s, believe it or not. He was able to enable small businesses in Africa, and those small businesses are the bedrock of the economy in Africa, and connecting Africans through safe, reliable, and secure transaction handling in a way that Africans are able to trust. So this started out in Kenya, but as Kenyans began to trade their phone airtime for services as part of the M-Pesa platform, it just exploded, and the cooperation of state and local governments allowed Africans to have access to alternate banking solution that superseded the traditional mistrust of big banks, and it's accessible to anyone with a mobile phone in the entire continent of Africa. So how did this thing take off? Acceleration from M-Pesa to M-Payer. As you can see, we've got a picture of M-Pesa here at this is like a kind of like a Western Union or a MoneyGram that you would see here in the States. But I've seen videos of M-Pesa's, locations inside of butcher shops, inside of, convenience stores and things like that. So they're literally everywhere there. Um, so then we had to transition to M-Payer to, get past some of the barriers to international viability. And by international, it oftentimes we think of Africa as kind of like one big melting pot, but really, to people that are over there, international is just across the border, right? So while it started out in Kenya, it quickly grew and spread across Africa. And there weren't the same kinds of barriers between African nations as there are, to getting into the States, and other, northern economic powers, and we'll go over that at the end. But the barriers to international viability were that it wasn't really designed for large businesses to begin with. It was really just trading cell phone airtime for money, and it dealt in cash transactions. So your quick, super fast, electronic transactions where you would like you would get with PayPal or like Venmo. That wasn't really how this worked. It took some time. So uh, you still got cash to pay your bills and do what you needed to do, but they needed that electronic platform to really become an international um, marketplace. So M-Payer was the mobile payments for business platform that built on the M-Pesa um, invention, and it was created to handle business to business and business to person transactions. It's a lot like PayPal. Businesses keep track of their customers through a transaction layer that allows them to transmit funds between accounts. So without having to deal in cash as a medium. So they took that communications platform, that technology, and that was there in M-Pesa and the user base. And now you can take a cab and you can pay through the M-Pesa platform, but you're actually using M-Payer. If I've got it on my phone and I pay you directly, it does all the conversion automatically. And the international compatibility with global systems like PayPal and MoneyGram is coded into the M-Payer platform. All right, so this platform is stabilized. It's widely used all throughout Africa. I believe they use it in Australia too. And there are other countries that are looking into using it. But there are some barriers. And as you can see, we've got our stakeholders on here. We've got the people of Africa. We've got our small businesses. We've got our international players that have a vested interest in this because they'll receive payments from people that are using that platform. And then MoneyGram and Vodafone are the largest domestic consumers and transactors for folks that are using the M-Payer and M-Pesa system. So we've got core values that have been established as the platform is stabilized. We've got ease of use, accessibility, safety, and security. Our assets are cell phones, airtime, cash, and then the M-Payer, M-Pesa infrastructure itself. And then the tools that these stakeholders use are going to be the digital wallet that's installed in any digital phone, kind of like if any of you have messed around with Bitcoin, it's similar to that sort of a setup. And then you have the M-Payer layer for business transactions. So what are our obstacles that we're running across right now? So the tensions that are in place today is M-Pesa and M-Payer are really going to have a hard time expanding past where they are right now because there are barriers to entry in international markets due to cell phone regulations within those countries. Like, could you imagine the United States, like AT&T or T-Mobile? I guess they're not based in the U.S., but yeah, those providers actually letting you take your extra minutes and turn them into cash that you could use to pay bills. I mean, that would be incredible. But something like that is not it's not in the cards for us because of all the regulations that are in place today. So, and M-Pesa ran across some political issues from like some roadblocks from even in Kenya because the traditional banks didn't want anything to do with it. But as it took hold as a grassroots platform, it really showed the power of when something can be adopted by society as a solution, and it's really a social solution, and it's spread through word of mouth. And at one point, it just became what the people wanted, and there was really nothing that traditional banks could do about it, especially because they didn't have the foundation to be able to combat the system. So the people won in this case. So that's it for our quick review about Kenya bank instability and the socioeconomic solution that was put in place by M-Pesa and M-Payer being brought into the fold. Thank you very much.